Vince's limousine explosion looked laughable. In June 2007, WWE aired one of the most infamous fake deaths in entertainment history. Mr. McMahon's limousine exploded on live TV. WWE tried to sell it as shocking, smoke fire, even the limo engulfed in flames. Headlines exploded too. WWE.com's traffic tripled, and mainstream outlets probed, wondering if Vince was gone. But the effect cratered fast on screen. Vince walked in 2 weeks later with 0 burns and 0 consequences, explaining the angle was scrapped out of respect for the Benoit tragedy. Like most things in WWE, the execution destroyed the illusion. The countdown was already ticking. Because everyone knew Vince didn't really explode. Even Mick Foley, who had a backstage shouting match about doing better, admitted it left him cold. So, yeah, it worked insofar as it grabbed attention. But by lacking stakes, realism or follow-up, WWE turned what should have been dramatic into a pyrotechnic punchline. The slow burn died in the limo, but the cringe lived on. Just ask anyone who remembers those green flames, and no aftermath. Shane survives helicopter crash unharmed.
And we landed perfectly.
Are you Vince McMahon's son?
I am.
Oh.
In July 2017, WWE's on-screen commissioner, Shane McMahon, was the victim of a supposed real-life helicopter crash. Aircraft downed in the Atlantic, dramatic rescue and all. It sounded legitimate, but when Shane snapped right into fully functional commissioner mode, no injuries, no rehab, no gravitas, it felt like watching Superman land and walk off camera. WWE posted the official rescue footage and media caught every breathless shout. It looked better on paper than in execution. Shane's real-life crash was impressive, but WWE didn't lean into it creatively. Instead, it disappeared, like they hit fast forward on tension. The result? An angle that could have been a thrilling noir arc became filler between ads. Fans were left thinking, he's invincible, or the stunt double deserves a raise. Either way, it lacked weight. High-stakes storytelling doesn't end with a shrug. Shane walked off unscathed, the angle vanishing faster than the pilot's helmet. A stunt that flew in the headlines but crash-landed on TV. Roman Reigns survives ambulance crash completely. Roman Reigns was involved in a 2016 ambulance crash angle that was apparently WWE's most aggressive attempt to make their top guy seem badass. Problem was, he walked away dong-free, crack-free and cough-free, just a few smudges of soot. They even teased a double story of Roman's invincibility and a heel turn, but delivered none of the drama. The operator might have hit the gas, but the segment stalled. By the next show, Roman was eating donuts backstage, promos intact, audience bored. If WWE wanted to build mystique, they built instead a sneeze-proof vest around their champion. It looked so fake fans nearly asked for refunds. The whole thing felt like a screen test for someone who forgot to mention plot implications. If you're hit by an ambulance, the story isn't he survived. It's how did he walk? Instead, WWE chose fluff. Execution matters. And here it was flat. Bray Wyatt burned alive, then returned. Bray Wyatt's death by burning storyline felt like WWE trying to have their horror cake and eat it too. A vignette showed Wyatt in a creepy funeral urn, then seemingly cremated in a flickering inferno. Fans braced for a supernatural reboot. Then he popped up weeks later, completely normal, like someone rewound between takes. There was zero explanation, no demon return, just a fresh-cut Bray, back from vacation with spooky music. The result? A moment so unbelievable even WWE's crowd looked bored. Horror needs intensity before immortality. Instead, the segment skipped the build, flipping horror into shrug. It felt fake not because it was supernatural. It should be supernatural, but because WWE skipped the why. Now, Bray is a pale ghost of a clever idea half-baked in the creative kitchen. Fear needed moisture. Instead, we got a dry cinder that folded faster than his return vignette. The Fiend teleports during Hell in a Cell match. Imagine a WWE match, then cut to some cartoon teleportation. During a Hell in a Cell match, the Fiend was standing casually in the cage, and then boom, he's suddenly mid-ring, no build-up, no camera trick, no context. Fans didn't ooh, they laughed. The segment felt like a magic show gone wrong. not the climax of a horror wrestling hybrid. WWE gave us a jump cut, not a scare. The lack of build or explanation made it cheesy, not chilling. When dealing with supernatural characters, clarity can be creepier than cuts to black. It was the opposite. A segment so obviously edited you'd expect a laugh track. In short, it looked fake because it was fake, but done without respect for the audience's intelligence or patience. WWE leaned on gimmick and forgot to give us atmosphere. Alexa Bliss hypnotizes rivals mid-match.
Reggie.
In June 2021, Alexa Bliss seemingly brainwashed Reginald during an in-ring segment, then used the same hypnotic power to control Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler in a backstage promo during Hell in a Cell week. Picture Reginald charging into the playground, blinking blankly as Bliss guitars her way into mind control. It was spooky, until you remember WWE hyped it as prestige sorcery, not PG pyrotechnics. Hypnosis doesn't work by shining flashlights and shouting, "You're in my head." It works by suggestion, which ironically is also gone by Saturday morning. Fans saw the cheekbones and dramatic music, yes, but the logic cap was missing. The payoff? Bliss pulled off a win and called it illusionary domination. But the moment looked like someone forgot to write the fine print. The result? Confusion, laughter, and a reminder that WWE's supernatural bits only work when they respect their own rules. Otherwise, the only thing hypnotic becomes the viewer's patience, vanishing fast. Rey Mysterio loses eye. Briefly.
Into the steel!
At 2020's Extreme Rules horror show, WWE tried to up the stakes with an eye for an eye match. Rey Mysterio must remove Seth Rollins' eye to win. The payoff looked terrifying. Rollins grinds Mysterio's eye into steel steps until blood and gore splatter. Then Rey's eye falls out. Except, blink, it's fake. A rubber eyeball was revealed during replays. Fans were torn between awe for the stunt and eye-rolling at how cartoonish it looked. Worse, the god-awful CG slime that emerged when Rollins puked turned what could have been visceral drama into PG-13 thank you note territory. WWE said it was creative allowance during pandemic restrictions, but no fan bore the eye extraction dread when the prosthetic contributed more than Rollins' acting. It felt like a schlocky horror flick redubbed by someone hungover. You can stage terror on TV. You just need more than a rubber eye and a tag team freakout. Zombies invade Damian Priest lumberjack match.
Field of zombies.
Yep. Working a lot harder than something else, Damian.
In 2022's Halloween Havoc, WWE introduced zombies. Damian Priest faced The Miz in a lumberjack match, but forgot to tell Johnny Gargano, Dexter Loomis, and Chi Moda they looked like they showed up for a toga party. Suddenly, zombie extras crashed in, howling and shuffling. Cue the pre-taped drop cam, the fake groans, the planted undead extras breathing like they'd just learned cardio. That's when everything broke. The logic? It's Halloween, WWE said. The result? A mismatch of slasher show cutaways and awkward wrestlers trying to act startled around people in ghillie suits. It looked so obviously fake. Even the fake scare tracking was inconsistent. Camera cut starts and stops saying, "It's still scripted." WWE was chasing event spectacle, but the zombies were free extras from film school auditions. Fans didn't buy suspense. They bought popcorn. And that's not the kind of cred WWE wants to snack on. Randy Orton vomits black blood everywhere. Randy Orton's black goop vomit gimmick first appeared in 2016. Black goo springs from his mouth during matches, particularly spooky when Brock Lesnar got drenched. The production was stunted. The goop looks like pancake syrup dyed with used motor oil and filmed in Valley of the Dolls lighting. It stuck around for years. Something about curses and chemical exorcisms. But let's be honest, it looked fake, unhelpful, and weirdly savoury. Because the stomach fluids in media already creep us out. The second they look like motor oil, we laugh. WWE leaned too hard, too weird, too pharmaceutical themed. Instead of scary presents, fans saw Orton doubling as breakfast condiment. He got more sympathy than shock value. To be fair, the DVD commentary might say immersive experience, but public consensus said, what is going on with Randy's throat? It was the kind of cringe you want to laugh through, not the kind you queue for main event. AJ Styles buried alive, no problem. At 2019 SummerSlam, AJ Styles found himself in a buried alive match, literally buried in a grave pit, shovels thrown, dirt flying. The cinematic angle went full disaster flick. Murphy, Shane McMahon, vignettes, voices in the night. Then after 20 minutes of eerie build-up, AJ climbed out, naked shirt, not a trace of dirt on his face, and coffee ready. WWE glossed over it all like no one would notice. Fans did. Socials exploded with memes. One person posted that's not dirt, that's a salad bar. When WWE tried again, buried with consequences, it never hit because this one looked so fake. It wasn't supernatural, it was sloppy film work. A graveyard scene that forgot two things: dirt sticks and viewers can pause. The moment looked fake and not in a fun way. It was the match equivalent of dumping a bucket of leaves in a kiddie pool and calling it a tornado. Drama wasted. Undertaker teleports using lightning again. It seems WWE never retired The Undertaker's teleportation habit. Lightning crackles on a dramatic night and suddenly Taker is 30 feet away. No entrance ramp needed, no camera trick, just pure unexplained noir magic. One recent example, a segment at Crown Jewel 2022 where lightning strikes, Taker vanishes, then reappears mid-entrance. Fans didn't say, wow, they said, why are we doing this again? It looks fake because we've been here before. WWE is relying on nostalgia fuel to mask creative laziness. Want to freak out? Build intensity. Don't just reuse lightning bolts like a screensaver. The moment felt less supernatural, more scripted sound effect from a horror B movie. Even the newest fans know teleporting means no one cares enough to question it. And at this point, the devil may laugh, but he's also bored. Triple H sledgehammer hits barely connect. At Survivor Series 2022, Triple H strode to the ring, shaking that unmistakable sledgehammer like a wine steward. Cue the big H pop. He swung with intent and barely grazed. It looked like someone practicing with a prop. The sound was a hollow thud, not the satisfying crunch WWE usually sells. Chaos popped afterward, chairs flew, Reigns took a hit, storyline momentum built, but fans paused on the swing. The weapon felt weightless. When you book the cerebral assassin, the hammer needs presence, otherwise it sounds like a foam noodle. WWE can rehearse drama all they want, but if the weapon doesn't hit audibly, we lose immersion. Hero or heel, you need realism in storytelling. Otherwise, fans click pause, scroll Twitter, and cue the sounds fake but okay montage. Hornswaggle revealed as Vince's son.
For your son, Hornswaggle.
Oh yes, the 2007 plot that holds the crown for This Is WWE Doing Too Much. Hornswaggle, WWE's resident leprechaun, was revealed as Vince McMahon's illegitimate child. On-screen DNA results and a tearful Vince reaction. The angle came with comedic weights like Teresa's arm and an imaginary brother, Finlay. The moment was meant to be shocking. Instead, fans erupted into laughter. It looked obviously fake because it was. There were no stakes, no emotional build-up, and no behind-the-scenes reason except cheap laughs. Vince could have stolen the show with a dramatic reveal, but instead he borrowed D-list sitcom tropes. WWE took the trinity of secrets, illegitimate kids, false DNA, and a mini wrestler, and turned them into a punchline. Fans weren't gasping. They were face-palming. Hornswaggle didn't become smoochable short king. He became shorthand for, we ran out of ideas. Stretcher falls over during serious segment. During an ambulance on stretcher promo in 2021, centered around Seth Rollins recovering from surgery, the stretcher carrier dramatically spiked and fell midline, causing the stretcher to tip faster than the segment progressed. Rollins paused, rolled his eyes, and delivered his lines like a parent watching the kid presenting a science fair volcano that didn't erupt. The moment became an instant meme. WWE was selling buckets of concern and storyline injury, but the fall spoiled it. The distraction didn't just break immersion, it obliterated it. Fans weren't concerned. They were laughing. The cameraman didn't cut away. The segment moved forward like nothing happened, and Rollins carried on like he does when live audio picks up fart sounds. WWE's business thrives on tension, but here it got crushed under its own laces. The stretcher fell, credibility fell harder. Mae Young births hand. Mae Young's legendary 2000 skit where she gave birth to a hand might be WWE's most delightfully absurd moment, but was it real? WWE sold it like main event news. Commentary went nuts. R-rated segments, shocked audience, priceless. Yet critics and fans knew it was fake. A prosthetic, an actor's hand, and no medical whatsoever. It played for comedy, but the delivery made it feel more sitcom than WrestleMania. Even Mae herself later said, "I knew what it was." Because it was impossible in real life. But WWE sells reality, and on that scale, the moment shattered the fourth wall harder than any pyro. Fans laughed, but they also thought, why are we watching a rubber hand birth? The angle didn't hurt Mae. She remained supreme, but it stands as a masterclass in tonal whiplash. Comedic gold on one side, credibility kryptonite on the other. Eric Rowan's cage-hold stuffed spider. There are bad reveals, and then there's this. In late 2019, WWE spent months teasing Eric Rowan's mysterious cage like it held the secret to the Attitude Era. Week after week, superstars recalled from it like it was cursed. Audiences speculated wildly. Was it a snake? A title? Hornswaggle. Again. When Rowan finally lifted the veil in March 2020, we got a giant fake animatronic spider. Think dollar store Halloween prop with a Walmart battery life. The crowd didn't boo, they groaned. And within weeks, the spider was killed on screen by Drew McIntyre, because even WWE knew it needed to die. The whole thing looked fake because it was visibly plastic legs, zero movement logic, and no payoff. WWE built suspense, then bailed. If the goal was shock, it shocked. If the goal was believability, it failed harder than a WrestleMania musical performance. Poor Rowan, a genuinely intimidating presence, got saddled with a spider sidekick nobody asked for. Sometimes the scariest thing in wrestling isn't the monster, it's the creative direction. Big Show's father's funeral gets raided. Nothing screams emotional gravitas like a wrestling funeral. Unless you're WWE, then it's just another backdrop for slapstick betrayal. In one of the most cartoonish Attitude Era segments ever, Big Boss Man literally crashed Big Show's fictional father's funeral with a bullhorn and a car. The scene escalated to Boss Man chaining the casket to his vehicle and dragging it away as Big Show leapt on, sobbing, riding it like a rejected Fast and Furious stunt double. It's hard to overstate how fake this looked. The casket bounced unrealistically, Big Show's acting veered into melodrama, and commentary played it completely straight, as if this wasn't a Looney Tunes sketch, but a serious moment. This wasn't about grief. It was about Boss Man doing crimes in broad daylight and getting away with it. It's legendary in all the wrong ways. The real funeral here was for realism, which died screaming in the passenger seat of that hearse. The Shockmaster falls through the wall.
I told you.
Sometimes history writes its own punchlines. The Shockmaster's 1993 WCW debut, yes, this was technically pre-WWE, but it's since been referenced in WWE documentaries, remains the undisputed GOAT of wrestling botches. Introduced as a mysterious new powerhouse during a live flare for the Gold segment, the plan was simple. Shockmaster would burst through a wall, strike fear into hearts, and cut a promo. Instead, he tripped over the bottom panel, fell face first, and lost his glittery Stormtrooper helmet. It was over in 5 seconds. Sid Vicious audibly broke character. Davey Boy Smith muttered, "He fell flat on his ass." The audience erupted, and just like that, Shockmaster went from destroyer to punchline. WWE would later acknowledge the moment in Hall of Fame roasts and blooper reels. But at the time, it was a full-speed derailment. The moment looked fake because it was never supposed to look that real. Wrestling thrives on controlled chaos. Shockmaster gave us pure chaos with a bedazzled helmet as collateral. Kennel from Hell. Match features sleeping dogs.
A trained pack of wild dogs! Thirsty Rottweilers will be led inside! Boss Man knows the end is near!
On paper, it sounded brutal. A Hell in a Cell match with a steel cage inside, surrounded by vicious Rottweilers. In reality, the Kennel from Hell at Unforgiven 1999 became an unintentional comedy short. The dogs didn't bark, they didn't bite, they just peed and napped. One tried to mate, one wandered off. Meanwhile, Al Snow and Big Boss Man, again, tried to pretend they were in mortal danger from some of the laziest canines ever seen on pay-per-view. The visual was laughably bad. At times, the wrestlers looked more afraid of stepping in poop than facing a finisher. WWE sold the match as Savage. What they delivered was a live-action homeward-bound sequel. Fans weren't booing, they were confused. The Dogs no-sold the match harder than anyone in history. The gimmick was fake on arrival, and the only tension was whether one of them would nap in front of the hard cam. Spoiler, they did. Handcuffed wrestlers escape without a problem.
Oh no.
Handcuffs in wrestling are supposed to be high drama, symbolic restraints that make the underdog overcome impossible odds. Unfortunately, in practice, they're often so visibly gimmick that it turns the tension into slapstick. From Roman Reigns snapping them open like twist ties in 2021, to Jon Moxley wriggling out mid-match without resistance, WWE handcuff spots consistently look faker than a kayfabe contract signing. The worst offenders come when wrestlers are supposedly incapacitated, then immediately flip a latch, stand up, and continue brawling like nothing happened. No bolt cutters, no referee interference, just good old-fashioned magician logic. In 2023, even Triple H's more realistic era couldn't resist a few flimsy handcuff gags, usually in bloodline angles, where someone like Solo Sikoa suddenly forgets how chains work. The message? Never buy handcuffs from the WWE prop department. They're as secure as a 24/7 championship reign. Randy Savage bit by Cobra? Kinda. In 1991, Jake the Snake Roberts brought a whole new meaning to snakes in wrestling, when he had his Cobra literally bite Macho Man Randy Savage in the middle of the ring. On paper, it's a moment burned into wrestling lore for how insane and shocking it was. But if you re-watch the footage in 2024 with modern eyes, or even just regular eyes, it becomes clear that this snake was as menacing as a sock puppet with dental issues. The Cobra was devenomed and muzzled, and it kind of just hung there, gnawing on Savage's arm like it was chewing gum. Meanwhile, Jake sold it like he'd just summoned Sultan, and Savage flailed around doing his best to look terrified. Credit to both for commitment, but the illusion breaks fast when you realize the snake didn't even break the skin. It just got a little hungry on live television, and somewhere, Peter took notes. Iconic? Sure. Convincing? Only if you're 5 or believe pythons are carnivores. Still, it made for a great visual, and a truly fake one. John Cena's duct tape title defense.
And if his feet are taped together. Hey, look at
John Cena's never give up gimmick reached peak absurdity at Extreme Rules 2010, where he defended the WWE Championship against Batista in a last man standing match. Now, Batista had just been speared through a stage and brutalized for 20 minutes, but he was still crawling. So what did Cena do? Pull out a roll of duct tape and MacGyver his way to victory by taping Batista's legs to the ring post so he couldn't stand up. It was creative, sure, but it also looked like a kindergartner's arts and crafts project. Batista sold it with the dramatic flair of a Shakespearean actor stuck in a school play. Meanwhile, Cena stood there proud. As if duct tape was a legal wrestling maneuver, the referee counted to 10 and Cena retained. The moment looked fake because logistically it made no sense. The tape could have been torn with one yank, but instead Batista writhed like he was shackled by Thor's hammer. It was classic Cena era overbooking, just enough ingenuity to be memorable but just fake enough to be laughable. Ambulance door rips too easily.
Oh my God! Strowman just tried to take out Ray.
If Braun Strowman's WWE run had a slogan, it might have been "Lift first, explain later." One of his most meme-worthy moments came in 2017 when he ripped the door off an ambulance during a segment with Roman Reigns. And sure, Braun is a strong dude, but not "I'll tear off steel hinges with my bare hands" strong. Even casual fans noticed how the door peeled away like it was made from tinfoil and wishful thinking. You could practically see the pre-cut bolts and cheap paneling falling apart on cue. The moment was supposed to make Braun look like a monster. Instead, it looked like a strongman contest sponsored by Spirit Halloween. Of course, WWE doubled down. Brawn flipped the whole ambulance over a few weeks later, off camera naturally, because physics. The ripped ambulance door was meant to be terrifying. What we got was Brawn versus a prop car built for demolition practice. Somewhere a real paramedic cried. Or laughed, probably both. Camera zooms make punches look worse. WWE's production team is world-class in many ways. Multi-camera setups, lighting, entrances, drone shots. But one technique has become infamous. The rapid zoom-in / zoom-out camera shake during punches. It's supposed to add intensity. What it actually does is remind you that nobody's hitting anyone. Try watching a Roman Reigns ground and pound flurry without getting motion sickness. The camera whips in and out like it's on a pogo stick, trying desperately to sell the impact that the fists themselves never quite deliver. Punches that once looked snug now feel like interpretive dance. The worst part? When they don't do the zooms, the strikes suddenly look more believable. But the zoom became so overused from about 2015 onward that fans online began calling it the Kevin Dunn cam, named after WWE's longtime executive producer. And while Dunn may have retired in 2023, the zooms remain, like a visual hangover from the PG era. Fake-looking punches are one thing, but zooming into their fakeness, that's production treason. Chairs clearly miss. During hardcore match, oh yes, the classic steel chair shot. Nothing says as violence like bending a folding chair across someone's back, except when you miss, wildly, on camera, in front of millions. Despite years of perfecting angles and timing, there are moments, especially in no DQ or hardcore matches, where the chair misses so badly it should come with a warning, for theatrical use only. Sometimes the chair bounces off the ropes and barely grazes a shoulder. Other times, it's swung with all the menace of a reluctant mall Santa. WWE usually adds a loud thwack sound to compensate, but when the impact is clearly several inches off target, no sound effect can save the illusion. In recent years, with added emphasis on safety, chair shots to the head are banned, thankfully. But that also means fewer believable chair moments. Instead, we get careful, obviously pulled shots to the back or air. The move still gets pops, but for long-time fans, it's hard not to notice when the chairs are doing more damage to kayfabe than the wrestlers. Goldberg, knock self out, still wins.
That's a ritual we've heard.
You know what screams realism? A man knocking himself out before the match even starts. And then winning anyway. That's exactly what happened at Super Showdown 2019, when Goldberg headbutted a locker backstage like a hype-crazed rhino, concussed himself, then marched out to face The Undertaker. What followed was less of a wrestling match and more of a controlled demolition derby, only with fewer working parts. Goldberg looked dazed from the opening bell. He botched a jackhammer, nearly broke Undertaker's neck on a tombstone reversal, and collapsed mid-spear. And yet somehow the match continued, the fake part, pretending this was entertainment. Goldberg later admitted he didn't remember most of the match. Fans remember all of it. It was supposed to be two legends clashing. It ended with both men looking like they'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. The match looked less like a scripted spectacle and more like a cautionary tale. Sometimes the fakest part of wrestling isn't the result. It's pretending the match should have even happened. Brawn tips over Limo with ease. If you ever need a human forklift, WWE wants you to believe that Braun Strowman is your man. One of his most eyebrow-raising feats of strength came in 2018, when he tipped over a limousine on live TV. Not just any limo, but the one belonging to Vince McMahon himself. It was meant to be shocking. Instead, it looked like Braun was pushing a cardboard box with wheels. Upon closer viewing, or honestly any viewing, the limo creaks like a plastic toy and tips like it's filled with helium balloons. You can spot the hydraulic lifts beneath the vehicle. The camera cuts and sound design try their best, but fans aren't stupid. They've watched Mythbusters. WWE wants these moments to go viral, but they often go viral for the wrong reasons. Instead of looking like a rampaging beast, Braun looked like a man at war with set design. It's impressive in a theme park animatronic kind of way, but if you're wondering whether Braun's limo stunt looked obviously fake, just ask the physics department, they'll confirm. Taker's druids forget their cues entirely.
Celebrate a victory, and here's the Undertaker.
There's nothing quite like the aura of The Undertaker. The lights go out, the gong hits, the mist rolls in, and sometimes the druids walk out, late, confused, or not at all. One of the more unintentionally hilarious moments came during a Raw segment in 2013, where Taker was supposed to be surrounded by his eerie, hooded minions. Only they forgot to show up. Or worse, some wandered on stage half a beat too late, like they were trying to remember if this was a cult meeting or improv night. You could actually see Taker looking around mid-promo, trying not to break character as the timing fell apart like a community theatre production of Phantom of the Opera. The mystique died the second you realised the druids had the spatial awareness of mole Santas on NyQuil. Druids are supposed to be terrifying, otherworldly figures, but when they shuffle out awkwardly or bump into each other, they look more like unpaid interns in choir robes. The moment was supposed to be spooky. It ended up pure Scooby-Doo. Miz and Morrison prank Bad Bunny.
Beautiful! Magnifique!
At WrestleMania 37, WWE leaned hard into celebrity involvement with Bad Bunny, and in fairness, Bunny over-delivered, but The Miz and John Morrison, not so much. In the build-up, they pranked Bad Bunny by vandalising his $3 million Bugatti with washable paint. That's right, washable. As in, rinses off with garden hose washable. The commentators tried to sell it like it was the most heinous act since Stone Cold dumped cement in Vince's Corvette. But instead of cement or chainsaws, we got neon marker graffiti and vague threats. Bunny didn't even look angry. He looked mildly inconvenienced, like someone left fingerprints on his iPad. It was a painfully safe attempt at heat, where the crime was staged to the point of parody. Miz and Morrison were channeling Looney Tunes villains, not legitimate threats. The prank felt like WWE was trying to toe the PG line without realizing how absurd it looked. The fans weren't outraged. They were confused about whether this was supposed to be serious, or a very elaborate Tide commercial. Exploding ring barely fizzles on impact. The final boss of fake-looking WWE adjacent moments doesn't even belong to WWE. It's from AEW, but it's so notorious that WWE fans still mock it constantly. The exploding ring match at AEW Revolution 2021 between Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley. The match itself was brutal and well executed. The finish, legendary, for all the wrong reasons. After the countdown hit 0, fans expected a giant pyrotechnic inferno. What they got instead was a couple sparklers and smoke. Eddie Kingston even heroically dove over Moxley to protect him from what turned out to be a 4th of July backyard dud. The camera didn't help, sticking close to every minor poof like it was a Michael Bay film. And WWE seized on the moment with fans joking that even Goldberg's entrance had more firepower. To their credit, AEW laughed at themselves in the aftermath, but the illusion was destroyed. The match had one job, explode the ring, and it did. Technically, just not in a way that required any actual evacuation. If you enjoyed this, hit the subscribe button because there's more coming your way.